doing? Chris has asked me to do something technical up here real quick to make sure we're all plugged in and ready to go. How was your lunch? Yeah, you're not too full though, are you? Okay, because I'm about to, in the next hour, I'm going to teach you how to do a flip. Is that okay? That's not a joke. Are we up? All right, we're up. And as you can see, the flip thing is no joke. In the next hour, I am going to teach you the art of the flip. And we're going to start with a little exercise. One day, I was chilling at Kentucky Fried Chicken. That was all right. Let's minding my own business, eating food and finger. That was better. This dude walked up, strange and kind of funny. I'm going to help you on this one. Went up to the counter with his menu and his
money.
There we go. He didn't walk straight, kind of side to
Side.
asked this old lady, is this? There, nice. Lady said yes, smiled. He smiled back. He gave a quarter and his order, small fries. Wow. You all should be proud of yourselves. I've done that now a few times in different places around the country and even around the world. I just did it with 7th and 8th graders in Australia a few weeks ago. By far more voices. I had brought 2 books I was going to give if anyone knew that line, but there was way too many of you. So I do have some stickers. If you shouted out Big Mac, come on up and I'll give you a sticker. And I should have known there was a lot of old school heads because I was here for the dance party last night. So I should have known that you would know that. So you can probably shout out who that is that shared that, right? Run DMC, a group that I grew up on. The first album that I had and memorized back to front. And Run DMC in that verse did something. When I talk about the flip, when I talk about hip-hop culture, I'm not just talking about rap or the visual art and the music that a lot of times get associated with hip-hop. I'm talking about this ethos around flipping things, flipping something out of nothing. And Run DMC did it all the time. At that last line, what did they do? They flipped it. You thought it was going to be something off the KFC menu, and they take it to, I don't even know who makes the Big Mac. Is that? Oh, right, Big Mac, McDonald's. So they took it to the McDonald's menu, right? Anybody know what that song is called? You Be Illin'. When they say illin', do they mean you're sick and you should go to a hospital as soon as possible? No, they mean you're ill. It's like a high form of compliment, right? Here's another one line from Run DMC. Not bad, meaning bad, but bad, meaning good. You catch that? One more time. Not bad, meaning bad, but bad, meaning good. That's the flip I'm talking about, that you could take something bad, literally the word bad, and completely flip it into something good, right? So not bad meaning bad, but bad meaning good. This has been the ethos of hip-hop culture from the beginning. There's a lot of good histories of hip-hop that you can check out. One by Jeff Chang is called Can't Stop, Won't Stop, and in it he says, if blues came out of forced or oppressive labor conditions, hip-hop culture came out of a condition of no work. Right? We're talking about the South Bronx in New York City, the 1970s. There aren't jobs. The city has just decided to put in a highway right through the neighborhood, crushing the community so that folks can get from the suburbs to Manhattan and back. And you have young people, predominantly black and Latino young people, in this neighborhood who easily could have gone to a very negative place, right? I mean, basic things like sanitation is not happening in this community. There's trash on the street, and you can see it in this photo. An old mattress lying on the street. People's linoleum floors that are ripped out of their kitchens lying on the street. And instead of just going to a purely negative place about it, young people flipped that experience and said, Lupe Fiasco, the rapper Lupe Fiasco said it beautifully, I backflipped on the mattress they slept on me on. Right? So here's society sleeping on these young people, not really giving them good opportunities. They're in schools, they're being forced into a vocational track, but then trained on equipment that there's no jobs using that equipment. And they're taking those skills and figuring out how to then wire together their parents' old record players to turn what was used to play music into a musical instrument, right? They're figuring out how to wire that to a street lamp to throw a party and celebrate. They're taking trash left on the street and using it to teach themselves a dance move and actually invent a whole style of dance, right? Break dancing, b-boying, b-girling. So that is that ethos of the flip from hip-hop that I think there's a lot that we as educators can learn from, right? Because we're also in a time of limited resources. We're also in a time where a lot of people look at us and think that, you know, that we're not necessarily holding all the answers, that we don't have all the solutions. And I think the ball is in our court now to show that we actually can take the situation we're being dealt, the limited resources we're being given. We can fight for more resources, certainly. We can fight for more respect, but we can also do that by putting our best foot forward and being innovators, being change makers, right? So of all the things I could talk to you about today with rubrics and design principles and the 4 C's of 21st century skills and the 8 essentials of project-based learning, all of that stuff is important, but I really want to talk about our role as innovators and change makers, and I want to talk about the lessons we can learn from both design and hip-hop. I'm going to go a little lighter on the design because I think I was here for Tony's opening remarks yesterday, and he was touching on the power of design, so we'll get to some of that, but I really want to touch on some of what I think we can learn from hip-hop. Okay. We're looking at record sales in the earlier part of this century, and that's in the billions, the red line going down. That's not the way, if you're a record executive, that's not what you wanted to see at that time. This is mostly because of something called file sharing that a teenager invented in his room and kind of decimated the music industry. So in the midst of all this, I want to share a flip that someone came up with, and it wasn't a music industry executive with all sorts of MBA degrees and whatnot. It was this gentleman. People know who that is? Lil Wayne, right? And Wayne decided to do something really interesting, something that a lot of the executives thought was a bad idea. And I'm not talking about smoking, although that is a bad idea. And Chandler and all the other students here, don't smoke. But what Wayne decided to do was, in the year leading up to the release of his album, The Carter 3, he released 6 free mixtapes on the internet. So he took that file sharing technology and did exactly, everyone else in the industry is trying to sue everyone who's sharing files and catch them and stop them and shut down their websites. And he said, here's 1 album, here's 2 albums, 3 albums, all the way 6 free mixtapes, essentially albums. And people said, well, why would they buy your music if you've just done that, right? And now you're trying to put out this album, The Carter 3. So The Carter 3 drops. It sells over 1 million copies in the first week. It's the best-selling album of the year. It goes triple platinum, right? And not only does it sell a lot, but it's good. It's in the top 3 list of any genre on a lot of the lists for the year. It wins the Rap Grammy. It really resonates, and people appreciate the music. Part of what was the flip that Lil Wayne did there was by putting out this music, by saying, I don't know what this new technology is going to mean for this industry, but I'm going to use it. I'm going to lean into it. I'm going to figure out how to make something out of it. He actually discovered something, which is by putting out this music, first of all, he was building a connection and he was staying relevant with his fans, but he was also finding out what they liked. He was doing what we call in the design thinking world, prototyping and iterating. So you put out 1 mixtape, see what people liked, what songs got played. The next one would have more of that stuff, and it would be done better. So by the time he got to the Carter 3, he knew what the fans wanted to hear, and he was giving it to them in a heavy dose. Think about the education analogies for this. I mean, literally, we talk about the flipped classroom. Are people familiar with that term? Right, so you take Khan Academy, instead of lectures or presentations in the class, students are watching that stuff at home. Especially important for students who don't have parents at home who are going to help them with the homework, because then they can do that work in the classroom and get that help from us, from the educators, right? That's the kind of ethos. That's how we can take that mentality and bring it from hip-hop into education. Another example is what we heard about from the keynote yesterday, Superintendent King, right? When I was in high school, only the super-duper smart kids who had never gotten in trouble got to go to a college campus and take a college class. Then now we're saying, what if we made an opportunity for students who are struggling in their schoolwork to be on the college campus, take the college classes, and get prepared? And we're seeing a lot of success with that, right? These are the kinds of flips I'm talking about. Here's one that merges hip-hop and education. This is another album cover. Artist named David T.C. Ellis came out of the Twin Cities, and his album was called True Confessions. Was it the first rap album out of the Midwest?
That wasn't, but he did release the first
So
rap song.
he had the first rap song like on a real record label out of the Midwest. He worked with Prince, he was in the movie Graffiti Bridge, worked with George Clinton, Mavis Staple, all these artists. At a certain point, he moved back to the Twin Cities and opened a recording studio, and he had all these young people hanging around and saying they wanted to make music with him. And he was saying, well, do you have your diploma? And a lot of them didn't. And he could relate to that because he had actually dropped out and struggled in school and dropped out and ended up graduating from an alternative program himself. So he called his old alternative school principal and said, I've got these young men hanging around. I want to flip my recording studio into a school. So here's an image of David now, a more recent picture than his album cover from, I guess, what would have been the early 90s. And a lot of my work has been about this school. I spent a year and a half at the school just researching and learning and trying to understand what was going on there. I'd been traveling all around the country through a network funded by the Gates Foundation of Alternative Schools, over 275 schools, and this one really caught my attention for the way that it was using and bringing hip-hop culture in and flipping the educational experience. We're really lucky to have a few representatives from that school here with us today, and I want to thank North Carolina New Schools for making that possible. Every time I do a keynote, I ask, can I bring students? Can I bring folks from the schools that I work with? And often they say, oh, we're sorry, we just can't do it. And the ethos here is, yes, we want those student voices, whether it's Chandler or the folks I got to bring with me today. So I want to bring up some friends from the High School for Recording Arts who are going to take just a few minutes to share with you some of the flips that school has made possible both in their personal lives and in their education.
On the block, if you're selling wolf tickets, I detest you. The doctor said I was a problem since a test tube. Okay, you make a little money, yeah, that's cool, but I'm on top of my flows just like a stepping stool. Nappy-headed young brother from the south side. I rock true divine, gotta get myself in line. I self-lord and master. Amazing mind, supreme mathematics at me and make it televised. Never been a snitch, but I could tell you lie. How y'all doing? Woo! Thank you guys for having me. My name is Ishrafeel. I'm a graduate of the High School for Recording Arts. I used to think my name was Can't Get Right. That's what my pops used to call me. You know, at that point in time, I didn't understand, what I was going through. I was going through some crazy things in my life. I come from the streets, my pops, my moms, they were in the streets heavy when I was younger, so I got kind of a typical black story. My pops went to prison when I was in about 10th grade, and my mom can't raise a man. So I decided I'll get out here and get it on my own. I started selling dope. I started doing dope. Not really dope, but smoking weed. I started popping pills. I tried PCP. It was a crazy time in my life. I disengaged from school when my dad went to prison. I felt like I had no rock in my life to kind of really hold me down. So disengaged. My senior year, I had already heard about the High School for Recording Arts, but I decided to go up there and sign myself up. So signed myself up, started that very day, and I met my advisor, Joey, and Joey was kind of like, man, he was like the older brother. Even though he's not of the same ethnicity as I am, but it was like as if he felt my struggles. And, Joey used to like kind of pick at me and try to get me to, he'd be like, yo, I see you and I can see something, it's something about you, but you play this role as if you're like everybody else when you're really not. You're trying to fit in when you stand out. So Joey basically, that rhyme that I just spit, Joey brought that out of me. And that was my first recorded song. I shot my first video to that. And since then, I've gone to intern for High School for Recording Arts. I intern in the studio, so I teach students how to engineer their songs, as well as production, artist development. And I'm around the same age as these kids, but I'm a leader in the school. So other than that, I've gotten opportunities to speak with the Minnesota Department of Education. I've gotten to sit down with the commissioner of that and basically explain why High School for Recording Arts works for students. They engage us in a way that most schools don't, as well as the family and the loving. So, and I'm sorry, I got a couple bullet points that I'm, kind of speaking off of. And so, I got to plan my first event this year, which was a spring gala. We had a few Lifetime Achievement Awards that we gave out, and I got to sit on that committee and help plan that event. And just that, that can help me in my career, with planning events and promotion and things like that. I'm also now a published artist, so I have publishing credits. I can go to an artist loft and tell them that I have a dedication to the arts and be able to live in that kind of lifestyle because I'm, through the school. So as well as that, I've taken PSEO for Business of Music. So I did that, which PSEO is post-secondary enrollment options. It's basically what you guys are talking about with high school students doing college classes. So I've done that, and now that I've graduated, I'm actually going to take up marketing as a major and writing as a minor. And if I can tell you guys anything as educators, one thing that we're looking for is somebody who's not going to judge us. You know, we're looking for somebody who's not going to, you know, every morning when we come in, we got things that we're dealing with outside of school, you know, and it's real life stuff, man. You guys couldn't go through some of the things that we go through, and we do it, and we get up every day and we come to school. And so one thing that I could say, man, Joey was like I said, he was like that big brother. You know, I got people like Dario, and Dario, you know, he's a mentor. He's letting me know, like, you know, this is what you're doing, you know what I'm saying? But I feel like you should come at it at an angle like this. Try to peak them, like make them think, you know, but don't judge, man. That's my best advice. Don't judge. So if I can say anything, man. So now that I told you that, I'm gonna introduce the next speaker. This is my brother. We're in a peer education group called HAS, and we do outreach in our community. We talk to, you know, students our age or, you know, people y'all's age and educate them about HIV. No, I'm serious. About HIV, STDs, teen pregnancy, ways to prevent, other options, safer choices. So with that being said, I'm gonna introduce Cameron Keys.
Thank you.
Very nice, man. Very nicely done.
How y'all doing? My name is Cameron Keys. 2 years ago, I'm from Chicago, Illinois. See, my life, I might look like I'm a perfect dude. Nothing ever happened to me.
Definitely.
If I tell y'all something, I can make everybody cry in here. I've been shot 16 times. In Chicago, Illinois, 3 different times. I was trying to do the best I can to get out of trouble. My mom and dad did too, but the people who were around in the house, you know, they ain't got good jobs, you know. They try to do the best they can. My last time I got shot, it was this December 26th, walking into my mom's house. A boy shot me in my lower back. 2 days ago, I got out the hospital. My auntie came down there to Chicago to get me, to take me back to St. Paul. And a family friend told me about High School for Recording Arts. And they were telling me, like, it's a studio in there. And I'm like, I do got a lot of stress on me. And the best way for me to get that stress off is rap, sing, or write lyrics. And then go upstairs and do my work. And I did that. I changed my life around. I didn't want to go back and kill nobody because that's not me. I let God handle that. My goals was to make sure I get everything done. One of my goals was to find myself, and I did that. The second goal was to make sure I make a right choice in life. The third one was to get my diploma. Fourth one, to get in college, and I did that. And right now I'm in St. Paul College. I'm enrolled. My career is auto body repairman. So you know everybody in here got in an accident before.
He'll be taking your numbers and he'll call you if you need
See, look, in the future I'm gonna open up my own business and I'm gonna help everybody out. But after I help y'all out, after that I'm charging y'all.
But Cam, everyone here gets a discount though, right?
Yeah, they get a discount one time.
Okay.
One time. But if we can talk, my people gotta talk to your people. Yeah, that's how we gotta do it. And I changed my life around. And I did it the smart way, and I did it the right way. And I went to so many different opportunities. I went to Mankato, did a speech. Tony, he took me on a speech with him, you know? It was my first time. I was nervous. I was super nervous. I'm like, should I go up there? Or should I just run out and just act like I had to use it or something? But, you know, if you face your fears, you'll get through life. And me, I ain't know that at first until I started going to High School for Recording Arts. They showed me love. Every day I go in there, I got an attitude like Ishrafeel. He say, we had a lot of things we go through in the morning. I was homeless for 8 months, and I still motivate myself to get to the high school for recording arts. I ain't had no father or no mom up there, but Dario, he a father figure to me. And he helped me out the best way he can. He got kids at the house, but he still did the best way he can to make sure I'm successful and make a right way and a good way to make a good, better, And I want to introduce y'all to Dario, a speaker, my father. Keep it.
That's beautiful, man. Thank you.
All right, so High School for Recording Arts is a wonderful place, but I'm sure you guys come from wonderful schools too. High School for Recording Arts really focuses on values, and there's 4 values that we really focus on. That's family, community, respect, and education. And in those orders, we make sure that we have our students understand the importance of all 4. We have what's called a community meeting every Wednesday, where students are able to speak on issues that are, they're going through, and also bring in community members into the school environment to be able to teach us about stuff that we might not be experts on. Those are very important things. So we bring our community in, and we're also a family. As Cameron said, he called me his father, which I appreciate. I didn't realize he was going to say that. It almost, messed me up before I came up here. But, one of the things that I think is important is that we're just there in a time of need. It's not always about, hey, where are you supposed to be? Are you going to class? As much as it is, hello, how's your morning going, right? And so I really want to leave that with you guys. If there's anything that I could say to you, it's when your students come in the morning, address them, figure out what's going on in their lives. We do something that's called a personal learning plan, and that could change at any given time. If a student walks in, and last week we just sat down and did a personal learning plan, and they say, hey, look, man, I want to revise that, we do that because it's important. If we're not teaching something that matters to them, then we're not really grabbing them in a place where they want to become future learners. And so when I hear the stories that you guys just heard from Cameron and Ishrafeel, I forget sometimes. I don't remember all those things because I remember the successes they've had, and I remember everything that they've done. So you guys, get with your students this year when you go back to school. Figure out their personal interests and really help that to drive your curriculum. All right, thank you.
Beautifully put. Beautifully put. Man, I feel like I can retire. Like, what else can I what else can I tell you all? That was beautiful. Thank you, guys. And just so everyone knows, the 3 gentlemen who were just on stage with me, as well as Tony Simmons, the executive director of the High School for Recording Arts, are going to be joining me across the hall right after this for, I think it's like an hour-and-a-half Q&A session. So if you've been excited by some of what you've heard, if you want to talk more with them or with me, we'll be over there, and you're, I think, all welcome. Let's pack it all. Let's all try to pack in there. So what I want to do is try to pull out, because sometimes I'm aware, like when I sit and hear some things like what we just heard, it's like that all sounds incredible, but how would I do that, or what does that really look like? What are the mechanics of it? I can't obviously do all of that, but I want to share a couple of lessons. Can I get the slides up? So this is just 3 things I'm pulling out from what I've seen and heard at that school that I think can be useful to us as we think about wherever we're working, whatever type of school, whoever our students are, kindergarten through college, whatever race, economic background, etc., that can be useful in our work. And this is the first lesson.
I'm gonna find the sample, chop it up. So I'm gonna put that in Serato. Too slow, that's speed.
Yeah, we're speeding it up. Chopping a little piece of it. All right, that is what in hip-hop culture we call sampling. Are people familiar with that? how most hip-hop beats are made. We're chopping up pieces of other older songs, we're remixing them, we're slowing them down, speeding them up. It could be from a cartoon, from a newscaster, from a movie, but we're making songs out of little bits and pieces of others, right? I think this is a great opportunity for us as educators to think about, maybe we can't go and adopt an early college model wholesale at our school tomorrow or next year. But maybe there's elements of what Superintendent King shared yesterday that we can do tomorrow. Similarly with High School for Recording Arts. Maybe we can't build a recording studio, but maybe there are aspects of the program there that we can merge and mix into the work that we're doing as educators, whether we're school leaders or individual teachers. And I just wish someone had written a book about the High School for Recording Arts where we could get all those ideas. This is my shameless self-promotion. That's my book. But seriously, whether it's my book or any number of books about other schools, right, there's a lot of lessons we can pull, and I think we have to let go of this idea that we have to do it all or none. It's like, how can we steal one good thing? And I say steal in a very affectionate sense of the word. How can we borrow one good thing, right? A school leader once said to me, I don't remember who it was, every time I go to a school, no matter how bad it is for a visit, I get an idea and bring it back. And I might speed it down or slow it up or whatever I have to do, speed it up or slow it down, but I bring something back with me. We don't just have to look within education. In design thinking, there's this whole idea around analogous contexts, and there's a famous story about surgeons trying to figure out how to be more efficient and effective in the emergency room, looking to pit stops on racetracks. And how do those pit teams do what they do so fast? No matter a car pulls in, it may have any number of problems. How are they deploying responsibilities? How are they aligning their tools in order to most effectively serve, right? And the surgeons were getting ideas from the pit stop. So, a lot of times in schools we focus on making sure our students have the right answers. We feel like we have to know all the right answers. And I think we need to focus a lot more on what the right questions are. So I want to share some questions with you for each of these lessons on hip-hop flips. The first questions are, what can you sample from other educators, other schools, maybe things you've heard over the past 2 days here, things that you just heard from the folks from HSRA? And then also, what can you sample from outside of education? Where there's some good ideas you can pull from there? Lesson number 2 is a very important one in hip-hop culture, and this is keep it real. People familiar with that term? It's all about authenticity, right? My friend Eric got this watch. He was so proud he got this G-Shock watch for a really good price. He's showing it off until his girlfriend pointed out that it doesn't say G-Shock at the top. It says G-Shook. You see that? And he realized he had a fake watch, and then he had to stop wearing it, right? Because it was embarrassing, because it's fake, right? We put a really high value on being real, being authentic. And there's a lot that we as educators can learn from that. I want to just share an example of a piece of student work and a little reflection on it from the High School for Recording Arts that I think embodies this lesson really well.
Everybody needs to breathe. You can't breathe, you can't live. So, you know what I'm saying? You can't develop yourself if you can't breathe. My name is Ezekiel Miller. I go to the High School for Recording Arts in St. Paul, Minnesota.
We want to do a song about breathing and this whole topic, but one thing I had to teach them and get them to understand is you can't talk about something if you don't know about it.
If you're sick and tired of being alone in this world, chase after your dreams, and all you have to do is believe in yourself. You'll get somewhere.
United Way came to a staff member at my school named Dario and basically asked us to do a song around the child's brain development from ages 0 to 3. And we researched things that we could put into the song to make it relate to us as well as the cause that we were representing.
Through so much, see my mom go through man after man, beat up and drugged out again and again. Now I'm telling you the story so you can understand. These are problems single moms endure. So much I see my mom still on the grind, raising 4 of us.
At first I didn't like science because it was a challenging subject and I just didn't really feel like, I was interested in it. I understand that, a lot of things develop from science and all, but at first it was just so challenging.
I think project-based learning, it's a very unique structure that we have here at High School for Recording Arts because, you're never sure where credit is going to come from. We always know that students come in needing science credits, social studies credits, English credits, all these different things. And so we want to be really creative with how we construct learning around that. You know, in the case of Breathe, I know Isaiah and Ezekiel, they started doing a lot of research on traumatic brain stress in young people and how that can affect young people later on in life in a very negative way.
Breathing is a natural reaction to the body's will to live. Much like brain development of a child is a natural reaction to a child's will to learn. By the time a child is 3, what they will have seen and done will shape and mold the critical sections of that child's brain for the future. It is important that we come together as a community to help nurture and expand the developing minds of our young children.
Cool project, right? So I talk about that as keeping it real because first of all, it was real world. Like literally they were outside shooting it, but also they were working with a real world client, right, the United Way, to produce something that was going to be used and shared with real audiences, right? So there's that kind of authenticity that's very important. I think we need a lot more of in our schools. But then there's also that it's real work. They're using the real technological equipment, the video cameras, the sound editing software, all of that. And it's also real work in the sense that it meets the Common Core standards. I'm trained as an English teacher. These are just the anchor English standards that project met, right? It does connect. I think sometimes there's this fallacy that doing interesting projects should happen after, you know, it's not a part of this core curriculum. It's something we do after as like a little icing on the cake. And it's not. It can really get at the very things that we are obligated to teach as teachers, right? And then finally, and perhaps most importantly, it was real to them. They were getting to make music, which was something important to them, but also they were talking about issues so important to themselves and connecting to the subject matter in such a way that I don't know if you saw that at one point Isaiah has tears coming down his cheek as he's rapping, right? So it's real, it's keeping it real, that project for the students on all of those levels. This is something I talk a lot about. These are just a bunch of links. I'm not gonna go too deep. I have like a whole presentation about keeping it real that these are all just links to that you can find if you want to check it out and go deeper on that particular point. That last one's an article. So take a picture with your phone or jot 1 or 2 down if you're interested. I just wanted to share those because I have a lot of stuff I love to talk about, but I want to move on and touch on some other points. The 2 questions I want to leave you with on this one. Sorry, did I just blow that for everybody? My fault. There it is. There it is. I saw like all these people be like, that's annoying. He told me to get my camera and then. Cool. Keep the cameras out because I got 2 questions I want you to take back with you. One is, what do your students love to do and make? And the other is, what changes do they want to see in the world? And it's fine if you don't know the answer to these questions right now. That's kind of the point. The point is to make sure we're continually asking them because even if we knew last year, it could be very different with our students next year, right? But if we know the answers to these, even if we don't build our whole curriculum around them, we can start to make those connections. While we're talking about this, particularly what do they want to see change in the world, and while we're talking about keeping it real, I think it's really important also to talk about how we keep it real, particularly around issues of race and racism. And I would say particularly now because of everything going on in the news, but really it's all the time, right? It feels really on the surface right now based on the incident last week in Charleston and things that have been happening with young black people and the police in this country a lot lately, or have been happening but are being documented a lot lately. I think as educators, it's not an option. We have to see it as part of our role to have those conversations with young people because it is affecting their lives, right? And we know that, we see it in the news, we see it statistically, but if we choose to look the other way and not have that conversation, we're leaving them to figure out a lot of that stuff on their own, and I'm concerned that they're not gonna get all the history and all the tools they need to address it. And I say that no matter what race we are or identify as, and no matter what race our students are, right? On the one hand, you know, I know the High School for Recording Arts, they had a student who was waiting for his kids to get picked, or a recent alumni waiting for his kids to get picked up, to pick up his kids out of preschool and was tased and arrested and is now suing the police department. But the way they dealt with it was they had him come back into the school and co-teach a class about police-community relations and students knowing their rights. And they also had police come in and help teach the class. And they also had ACLU attorneys come in and help teach the class. And the students produced music, and they produced videos, and they produced a little wallet card that had people's 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendment rights on it, right? So it was a school lesson they were learning, but it was very important in terms of how they understand their place in society, what their rights are, and so on and so forth. I don't know if people followed the McKinney pool incident recently, right? A lot of us probably saw this video of a young woman, a young black woman being slammed on the ground by the police, so we can imagine how that affected her, or how an experience like that might affect one of our students, or a student who even just could look at her and relate based on their own identity. But it also affects students of all identities. I don't know if you saw the video of the young white man her classmate who filmed it and was talking about it, and talking about how upsetting and confusing it was to him because he felt like he had been treated differently when all of his peers, his black peers, were being chased and thrown down, and he was allowed to stand there. And I mean, people wonder where that video came from. He was just standing there filming it, and then he had to process that, right? So if we want to make sure that our students don't end up like Michael Brown or like Dylan Roof, we really have to keep it real with them and have these conversations and talk about race. And you know, I know that may make some people uncomfortable hearing me say that or thinking about doing it, but I have to keep it real with you all. Or I wouldn't be staying true. So that kind of ties into the last lesson, which is that sometimes when you're an educator, the last hip-hop lesson, sometimes you also have to be an agitator. And in hip-hop, we do everything we do it with swag. So I made up a word, swagitate, be a swagitator, right? Because we know if we're trying to make real change, we're always gonna rub somebody the wrong way, right? There will always be haters. So I'm gonna teach you all a quick tactic to deal with the haters, if that's all right. And this works for everyone, whether you're Jay-Z or the president. So I need you all to stand up where you are. Just clear out a little space, get your feet about shoulder width apart, and follow your leader here. Oh, we need audio on the video.
And you know, you just gotta kind of.
Here you go, practice. There you go. I'm seeing some people got it, some of y'all need a little work on this. And just so you know, that's good, you got it. Just so you know, I'm bipartisan here. I know that was Obama, that's me and Mitt Romney. So, you know, it doesn't matter what political party you're affiliated with, you know, these guys get it, they know what time it is. And the last question on this note is, if you had nothing to fear, if you were ready to get out there and with all that swag and swagitate, what is it that you would flip in your classroom, in your school, in your community? We asked this question to 45 teachers from Chicago, Philadelphia, and New England. And they came up with some really amazing answers. They said they'd flip from a one-size-fits-all model to giving students control of their own learning processes. They said they'd flip from traditional professional development sessions to teacher-led, hands-on sessions. They said they'd flip from a sage-on-the-stage instructional model to project-based learning. They said from using standardized test scores to assess and measure their students to tracking data on whole child development. And from teaching feeling like a burnout profession to teaching being a sustainable career choice. And there was more, but I just wanted to give you a flavor for some of the kinds of things that teachers wanted to do. As Sharon told you all, I work at a place called the Business Innovation Factory. It's a nonprofit that's been around for 10 years. We work with leaders in social systems, whether it's education districts and schools or hospitals and healthcare systems, to help use human-centered design to make change and bring innovation to those systems. The project that I was just starting to share a little bit with you was called Teachers Design for Education. And we worked for over a year and a half. It was supported by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And we designed an online system to help teachers learn the principles of human-centered design. So this is the curriculum. I'm just showing you a couple screenshots of the website. We start by defining a challenge they want to tackle, like the ones I just shared with you. We go out and do some exploration on that. We come back, we reflect, we distill insights from it. Then we get to imagine and brainstorm solutions. Then we play, we prototype, we start building just low-fidelity prototypes to test. And finally, we get out there and test and then take it and try to actually transform our work with it. So this online curriculum has a bunch of videos you can watch that walk you through each of those phases I just blazed through. It has activities that you can either download and print out or you can do right on the website. And then what happens is those feed in and you create a team page and you can see here's groups of teachers, the challenges that they came up with and how they tackled them. And then people can comment and ask questions. So part of the idea here is to create a dialogue amongst educators about education challenges that we want to use a human-centered design approach to tackle and then be in community in doing that and show off all of our good work. It looks like a linear process, and I'm segueing here, into the design activity we're about to do. It looks like a linear process, but I want to show you another visual of what it actually feels like. Which is this, right? It starts, it's complex, we're getting sent in a million different directions, but the whole point of this process in these phases is to help bring us out to that end of clarity and focus. So I want to do about a 15 to 20 minute activity with you all. I've never done it with this many people, but I'm confident we can pull it off, especially now that I've seen how you all can get that dirt off your shoulder. What we're going to do is we're going to use a little bit, so just so you know, this is a 6-week curriculum usually. We're going to do it in 2016th of that time, if I did my math right. But we're just going to get a little flavor for it, and we're going to do that by designing something for each other. So yesterday you did a design activity where you had no constraints. What would your classroom look like? And I loved watching what people posted on Twitter. Today we're actually going to practice being a designer for somebody else, for one other person. So what I'm going to ask you to do is just take 30 seconds to just stop. I know we're hitting you with a lot of information and video and audio and all of that. And think about what is something you've always wanted to know how to do, but that you've either been too scared to try to learn, or you've just never gotten around to, or maybe, actually, probably best, you just literally didn't know how to learn. So just take about 30 seconds and think that over. Maybe jot it down, tweet it, hashtag NCNS15. Yeah. You got to have this, or you're not going to be able to do the activity. So if you don't have one yet, just pull something out of the blue. Maybe you just decided today that you want to learn how to do it. All right, everyone have something. If you don't, now's the moment to just really grab something out of the blue. You each have a packet on your table. Well, you should each have 10 packets on your table. So if you could locate those packets, pass them around, try not to get too much grease on them if you still have plates on your table. This is what we're going to use for the next 20 minutes to do this activity. And the first instruction, once you have a packet in your hand, the first instruction is to find someone that you don't know well. So if you're sitting with them, that's great. But if you're sitting with your crew from your school, turn your chair around and find the first person you see that you don't know well, and you're going to partner up with them. So just go ahead and do that. As soon as you have your packet, find a partner you don't know well. Do not get in a group of 3. That will not work. You must be one-on-one. So if you're not finding someone nearby, hop up and find someone. All right, if you're not in a pair yet, grab the closest person next to you. That is your partner. If you are not in a pair yet, grab the closest person next to you. That is your partner. All right, attention please. Here's what I need you to do now. Attention please. I'm glad you got to the next step, which is introduce yourself, which is beautiful. But after you introduce yourself, you are going to interview your partner. And I'm going to put a 3-minute timer up. You won't be able to miss it. I want you to just ask your partner both what it is they want to learn, of course, but I also want you to ask them about past learning experiences they have had, especially both in school and out of school learning experiences. I have some prompt questions on the form, but feel free to wildly swerve off of those if you have a path of conversation you want to go down. The goal here is to learn as much as you can and get as deep as you can about what really works for your partner in terms of how they learn best, and also what's not going to work, what's going to really create a roadblock and they're not going to get anywhere. So be investigators and conduct that interview. That's a good idea. Maybe I'll do that. sure you're taking notes. Make sure you are taking notes. Take notes on what your partner is saying. How's it going? Great. Good. Have you guys gotten enough information one way yet? Okay, great. All right, I'm pulling an early switch. Wrap up that last thought, it's time to switch. Attention, please. If you have not switched yet, make sure you switch. So if only one person is interviewed, make sure the other person is now asking the questions. You need to get information both ways and take some notes. Thank you. All right. Nice work, everyone. Nice work. I got to go and listen in on a couple. You all were doing really expert jobs of ethnographic research. Nicely done. So you've collected some good information. I'm just warning you, I'm going to move us through this quickly, especially this page. This is a really important part of the process, and if we had been able to go out into the world and do all sorts of a few weeks of research, we would really need to take a lot of time to distill insights, find patterns, and start to identify opportunity spaces where we're going to do our design work. I'm going to move us through this one quickly. I'm just going to give you a minute. This is a quiet activity. This is you now reflecting. You just got a lot of information from your partner. You shared a lot. Now it's time to think about, what did I just really hear, and start to distill the message a little. So I'm just going to give you like 52 seconds to reflect on that, and then we're going to move to the part that I think is the fun part, where we get to start designing. So just take a few seconds, read these questions, and jot down some thoughts, look back at your notes. All right, finish that last note. Know that this is a part of the process, and if you want to take this exact activity and use it, you could really go a lot deeper here, say if you were using it with students or with colleagues. But we're going to turn to the next page, and we're going to do some quick and dirty design work. And part of that is we got to go down a bunch of different paths before we decide what the right one is. So I want to challenge you to go for both like the quickest, like I could just do this tomorrow type thing, I could make this learning experience for this person tomorrow, to the most elaborate, robust, I would need $1 million and some engineers from NASA and Google to pull this off, but this would be a really cool way for them to learn this thing. Try to get at least like 3 to 5 ideas down, and you see these little boxes. Each one can represent an idea. You can write it with words, you can draw it with stick figures, you can draw a conceptual map. Think about how you would represent it so you could share it back with your partner, because spoiler alert, we're going to do that. But try to get at least a few different options, because you don't want to be dead in the water if you have one and it doesn't work well for them. So we're just going to take another few minutes, and we're going to start designing out some options. So just let your mind go free and think out of school, right? Let's assume it's not in a classroom in a traditional educational context. How would you help them learn this thing? I'll give you some Mission Impossible music for it, because it's a challenge. All right, you're not sharing it yet. I'm hearing a lot of talking. You're just drawing or writing. You're getting your ideas. You're the designer right now. So if you need to ask one clarifying question, you absolutely have to, go ahead. But otherwise, just focus on your design. You're going to get to share it right after. So just focus on your 6 boxes and starting to fill those in. How many people have 6 boxes filled up? All right, nice. That doesn't mean they're 6 good ideas. They just got 6 ideas. Right. All right. . That is the buzzer, my friends. You can imagine how you could make this a much more robust activity if you had more time, but hopefully you got at least a few ideas you're feeling good about, because the next step is to share it and get feedback. Now, if we were going to spend a whole day on this, which we do sometimes, you could then turn around and go back and try to design it again and make improvements. We're not going to have a chance to do that today, but at least you can get some initial feedback. And if you like something that someone designed for you, take a picture or write it down and tweet it out, right? So we got our hashtags here, the one for the conference and the one for my work. Jot down what they did and tweet it, or take a picture and tweet it. So let's take turns. One person start by sharing your ideas with the other person. All right, if you have not switched yet, finish up sharing that idea, and then you're going to switch. So if you have not switched yet, finish up sharing the idea you're on, and it's time to switch partners, and I'm starting the timer for partner 2. All right. It breaks my heart to do this because y'all are having such good conversations. But I gotta stop you here. We gotta come back together because I want to share a couple last resources with you. So take a picture of what your partner designed for you, and hopefully you can continue the conversation, trade contact information. This can now be your personal designer. Like Cameron, they'll give you a discount the first time you want something designed, and then after that, they're gonna charge you big bucks for it. So, this was our process, right? We did the design thinking squiggle in a very short period of time. But how did your partners do on a scale of 1 to 10 on designing an experience for you? Hold 10 fingers up if they did a nice job. You don't have to lie, let's see it. Okay, I'm seeing some 5s, some 10s. I see toes in the air, nice. Very nice. You all did an excellent job. Give yourselves a round of applause. So, like Lil Wayne, my colleagues and I at the Business Innovation Factory, they're going to be